Okay, folks, next victim in the house. This is a 2009 Ford Escape. I have never actually seen this truck before, but I did put these wheels on the rims a few weeks back for the fella. He put them on himself. So apparently it's got a bad wheel bearing and ball joint on this side. And I'll tell you what, just by looking at it, definitely some issues with this front right. And you don't need an alignment rack to see this. I'll show you this here in a second. So when I drove it in here just now, I noticed a couple of things. One, the brakes are really grabby. So we'll get this wheel off and see what's going on there. The other thing is it has no power steering at all. It's electric, I believe, on this model. So he's aware of it, obviously. It's kind of hard to miss. And we'll probably get into that one down the road sometime. I know Fords have always had weird camber. This is just rough, just to give you an idea of what I'm looking at here. You can see maybe 3/4 of an inch there, and about an inch and a bit up top. So about a 1/2 inch of camber there. You almost don't even need the square for this side. You can see there, same thing, about 3/4 of an inch between the rim and that level. Yeah, that's quite a bit different. I mean, just looking at that wheel, you can see it's cambered quite a bit. Oh, gotta love swollen lug nuts. And one tire off. Huh. That's a pretty new looking control arm. The outer part not doing nothing, the inner part not doing nothing, and a big old groove cut into it here. Yeah, probably get them through the winter, but that's gonna need a brake job in the spring most likely. There's probably half the problem why it's cambered so bad. Let me show you this one. So they said it was a bad ball joint from another shop that tried to do the alignment, but I'm sorry. That's not a ball joint, that's a back bushing, and it's completely torn away from the steel. There's nothing attaching that at all. The ball joint's dry as a bone, but it doesn't actually look that bad. The front doesn't look too bad. And people ask, why WD-40 everything? Look at that. It's essentially one piece. That's gonna be a treat and a half to get that off of there. Not even going to propane, we're going right to oxy. Wasn't that bad. I think we'll keep that torch close by though. Oh, I do like that they put little caps on the Allen heads at least. Okay, so one of the things we got to fix here is a wheel bearing. The hub assembly needs to come out. So that means taking the brakes off, the rotor off, and of course the hub itself, which for the brakes is these pins here. They are a 7mm Allen head. That's what those little caps were. And obviously these bolts, which takes off the caliper bracket here. Okay, 7mm. -1 for using Allens, +1 for using the little plastic cap that keeps road grime and stuff out of them. So you're dead even on this one. Alright, so there's the pins on a Ford. Okay, well they're passable. You can see the wear mark. We still got an 1/8 of an inch there. We're gonna need brakes soon though. There's the inside one. You can see a little less, and that's typical. The insides tend to wear more, but you still got a little bit of the wear indicator there. It's just packed with old brake material, but that's pretty rusted in there. Now, let's get that bracket off. Okay, so the big bolts for the caliper bracket are 18. Yeah, just about every time. All right, here's your caliper bracket. Now, in a perfect world, that rotor will just come off of there. But because this one is so rusted on, this could get interesting. Okay, we've got the axle moving. Okay, it's still not wanting to come off, so we're going to the Persuadatron 3000. There we go. Didn't have to get to the Persuadatron 5000, but 3000 did it. Like I said, there's some grooves on the inside, and then there's that 1/4 inch of rust at the very outside, like there always is. You can see the penetrating oil got in there, it helped. Somebody did actually put anti-seize in there, but that's a long time ago. Okay, so to get at the wheel bearing now, we got to pull the whole steering knuckle off. So that's these 2 bolts. That'll pull that out of the strut. The tie rod end is just a cotter pin and a castle nut. And then of course the ball joint, which we're getting rid of anyways. Cotter pin. One side's already been broken off, so. Best tool I know to get them out, side cutters. Tie rod's off. Okay, so you can see wheel bearing is definitely toast. That should not be moving at all. There's the bolt off the bottom ball joint. Ooh, that got a little warm. There we go. And I had to beat that socket on because it's so rusty. Now I get to beat it off. Okay. Those guys up there, they're 18s. Just push the axle through now that I got these bolts out. I can pull the knuckle away, give myself a lot more room. And then drive that chisel into that little gap just to open it up a bit. That should be all it needs. And there we go. So there's the gap that I was driving the chisel into. That just opens that up so that it comes off the ball joint a little easier. All right, the wheel bearing itself is located right here. You can see it. There's half of it turning, the other half is held into the knuckle. This inner part right here is the hub. All right, it's this guy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push out the hub. Hopefully the bearing will stay in place and not come apart because that makes things harder. And then there should be on the inside, I believe, a clip, and that allows us to push the bearing out. All right, that ball joint, well, the boot is definitely split, and I didn't do that, so it's bone dry, but it isn't gone yet. That bushing is why it won't align. It does need to be changed. Okay, so while we're here, we're going to take the 2 bolts out and get this control arm out of the way. Okay, not too bad. Once you get that out of the way, you can actually get in here. This plastic has irritated me enough that it's gone. is why you should never use capture nuts on suspension.
Many minutes later.
Yeah, that one's going to be much of the same. Much of the same. All right, so that big guy comes from down there. Another bolt comes out right there from the front, which is why I pulled the plastic shield, because you can't get it out with the plastic shield in the way. Okay, so once you got those out, it comes out relatively easy. Okay, now that you can see it, there's the ball joint boot ripped. Not a bit of grease in there, but it's not super sloppy or anything. I mean, it was on its way out, but it wasn't gone. You can press these out and push in a new one. It's not that hard. This bushing here is in good shape. So that would be the front bushing. You see the back one here though? It's pulled out here. It's all cracked. And it's not attached anymore right there or there. So that was actually the culprit right there. Okay, there's our new part. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's cheaper to buy the whole control arm assembled than to replace the ball joint and one of the bushings. Especially when you factor in the labor involved with the time of pushing out these parts and pushing in new ones. Just the individual components alone cost more than all of this. So this is a no-brainer. That sway bar fights you every step of the way. I'm gonna hear all about ride height again, but because this wants to be up higher, but the sway bar hits the control arm here on these models. So you literally gotta push up weight on it to get it to where ride height would be. Now the back one, you can go ahead and crank that on, it doesn't matter. All right, new control arm is, well, one bolt tight, one bolt loose, and we got the ball joint to do. Let's go push out some bearings. All right, so there's what I got rigged up. A couple of 2x6s, two of them under the brake caliper bracket, and one under the steering arm. Okay, the tie rod end goes there. Because they're a different height, this one is 3/4 of an inch lower. That puts it right level where you need, because obviously you can't have anything underneath the knuckle itself. So let's see how bad this is going to be. Safety glasses on. Pretty easy stuff. Okay, in this case our bearing split in half, as is usually the case on these worn out ones. So we need to get that piece off of there now. As well, the inner race stayed in here. Okay, this is the hub side. I pushed out this way, so out towards us. After grinding, there's the clip that holds the outer part of the bearing in. So if the bearing hadn't come apart, all we would have to do is pull this clip, and then we could push the bearing out this way from behind. Okay, so you can just see the ends. I had to use a flap wheel and get in there and clean it, because you couldn't even see that it was so bad. That is not going to come out with standard slip ring pliers, so I'm going to use a center punch in the hole, try to loosen this thing up a bit after I put some penetrating oil in it. I might even end up heating it up to get that out, because like I said, you couldn't even see that thing was in there. Okay, pretty much as I expected was going to happen. The ends just blew right off it as soon as I tried to pry on them. So I hit it with acetylene, got it cherry hot, and now it's coming out loose. So now I just got to get in here with a couple of screwdrivers and we'll get that clip out of there. So yeah, just like that, work it around until it comes loose. You can see even then, it's just rusted in over here. That should be coming out. There we go. There's our clip. Now we can push this bearing out. Well, that moved, finally. Look at that, or my socket just exploded. There we go. So you can see the outer race moved flush with the ends. Now we gotta find somewhere to set up our plates so that we can push it out the rest of the way. Such an oddball shape. It would be lovely if they gave you a little more surface area here. Alright, I think I got those plates set up just right. Let's see. Go, just let go. There's your bearing. Or one half of it anyways, the other half's still on the hub. Okay, I just got the bearing kind of smacked in there a little bit. I'm going to set the bearing on a flat plate because this is so awkward to try to get level. And what we're going to do here is use a solid block of aluminum. Hopefully it's strong enough. And we're going to try to push it on that way. Because that's still got to go back another 1/4 inch, but it's now flush. This is where we need our socket. Bearings in all the way. Now we can put a clip in there. Okay, so big heavy clip's got to go in here now. That holds that bearing in place. Just like so. So as far as this inner race that was on here, all I had to do is, you can see how beat up it is. I just heated it up with the torch and just hit it, went around, hit it here, here, there, and it just walked itself off after a while. No big deal. Okay, so next thing we gotta do is press this guy back onto here. All I did was grab some 100 grit sandpaper and just did one of these to take any burrs or whatever off. I didn't take any steel off, I just cleaned it up, that's all. Because the shape is so odd and hard to get in there, if we do our same method that we used last time, that should do it. So now we've got a flat surface and a flat piece, so it should go in way better than trying to get this thing level and jamming your bearing in sideways. It kind of self-leveled right there, going on real easy. There we go. All right, let's get this thing put back together. Okay, I took a wire wheel and cleaned up this a little bit, and in here, cleaned up the splines. So hopefully things will not need an air chisel to put them back together the way I had to take them apart. There we go. All right. Get that ball joint kind of in place. The top's easy to do. There we go. Kind of sitting where we need it. Ball joint's in. Let's just put that bolt in there. Okay, so to put that bolt in, there's the old ball joint. What you got there is a slot that goes all around it that the bolt sits in. And when that bolt's in, it can't come out. So that's all there is to that. Some wire out of my way before I end up damaging it. All right, there's the ABS wire. That bracket's in there, goes in here. The other one goes in behind, little 8mm head bolt. You got this little widget, and then the cap that goes back in here. Wife brought me a Timmy's. I don't know what's with this weird Christmassy cup, I guess. I love how you got to put caution, hot, it's coffee. All right, we got our axle in part ways. It's a tight one. The splines in this are a little bit rough, so we may have to tap that in a bit. Oh yeah, we got threads now. So our backing plate was a casualty. It was pretty rotted out, and as soon as I got to working with the press, it just fell off. So we got no backing plate anymore. We're going to leave the tie rod end off because this gives us the ability to turn and makes putting everything else back together easier. Let's get our top bolts put in. And of course, a little anti-seize goes a long way. All right, bottom ball joint bolt. That's going nowhere. We're a spinner again. There we go. ADCs. Hopefully they won't be so hard to get off next time. Caliper bracket. Nothing to that. Can only go one place. Okay, tell which one is your inner pad because it has this spring-loaded clamp that holds it into the caliper. Okay, so we're just going to set that one in there and place the outer pad on here. Now these escapes, they don't have slides like a lot of other cars, so you just got to make sure they're clean and moving. Okay, so like I said, you don't have to push the piston back all the time. In this case, it went right on. Okay, pins in, just a little bit of fresh grease. Okay, so there's the pins. You can see you can easily line them up with two little plastic caps. Keep the dirt out. These little guys. All right, that spring. There we go. Let's do our tie rod end here. You have to line up the cotter pin hole after it's tight, so don't go crazy until you get close and then have a look. Brand spanking new cotter pin. There we go. All right, the only thing that's left to do is tighten up this front bolt, but because we're nowhere near ride height, we can't lift it really without lifting the whole suspension, because that sway bar hits the control arm. So we're gonna have to jack this up a bit and get it closer to ride height. If I can get this up a little bit without taking it completely off the lift, that would be a bonus. All right, now we get to put our plastic Scooby back on here. I can remember how that went. All right, let's see if that helped the alignment at all. I'd say that's a little closer. Okay, folks, there's your 2009 Ford Escape front control arm and wheel bearing replacement. Hopefully, if you're about to take on this job, or you're just curious, or you're just bored sitting at home and needed to watch somebody get their hands dirty, this helped you out a little bit. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.